Thank you, Yvonne, and thank you, Joe, for the invitation. Joe, when Joe rang me to invite me here and explained that I'd be speaking after Maureen Gaffney, I thought, oh no, Maureen's a good speaker, hard act to follow, and she is. And then he said, and you'll be speaking at about 9 o'clock on a Friday evening. And I said, no, Joe, I'm not really sure many people will show up. And he said, don't worry, loads of people will show up. And you have. So thank you, Joe, for the invitation to speak here. I suppose what I want to do in my short 12 minutes, and I've got my alarm going on my phone as well, is that I want to kind of talk about the theme of faith in the future. Because I think we're going through a bit of a crisis of faith in Ireland. I work in the market research business, and so I get the opportunity to talk to people all around Ireland about their lives and their hopes and their fears. And as I see it, in August 2013, the Irish people have lost their faith. Now, to be clear, I'm not referring to religious faith, though I'll come back to that, rather to the loss of a more secular faith, that of faith in the future. However, I don't think we're unique in that regard. Across most of Europe, the European project has ground to a halt. The post-war faith that inspired the formation of open, democratic societies and economies has dissipated in the face of economic stagnation, the loss of a generation to youth unemployment, and the seemingly insurmountable problems of debt and deficits. But it isn't just about economics. It never is. Our secular crisis of faith goes much deeper, to the issues of identity and values and of purpose. The crisis will not be resolved by mere political and administrative fate. It's too big for that. As I see it, restoring the Irish people's faith in the future requires us to see the challenges ahead in terms of what I call the 3 R's: resilience, recovery, and renewal. We have to get through the crisis, hence the need for resilience. It draws on insights from psychology and some of the things that Maureen spoke about. But we also need a sense of where we're going, hence the need to map out a path to recovery. And finally, we must recognise that a crisis is an opportunity not to be wasted, and that now is the time to renew our economy, our society, culture and politics in order to create the republic that our forefathers dreamed of. We are asked this year to look to 2016 as we answer the question, how stands the republic? It is a call to draw on our past as inspiration for our future. That isn't just a noble ambition, it's a necessary one. For one reason, for our loss of faith in the future is that we are no longer connected to the past. In Europe, as in Ireland, one unforeseen consequence of the project of secular liberal modernity and its emphasis on freedom and equality and reason above all other values, and there are other values, is that we are trapped in the present, as it's been described. Our culture increasingly disdains our ancestors. They were a very politically incorrect lot, you know. And religious belief has become a matter of personal taste rather than, say, shared experience. Now, unfortunately, this means that we are losing the ability to draw meaningful inspiration from the past just at a time when we need it most. A people without a shared sense of what connects their past to their present, to their future, is no longer a people, but merely a collection of consumers, employees, and voters at the whim of whatever the current elite in government or business and media considers to be important. Now, in marked contrast, those who signed the 1916 proclamation were not trapped in the present. They did not disdain their ancestors, nor was religion merely a private affair. To quote, "In the name of God and of the dead generations from which she receives her old tradition of nationhood, Ireland, through us, summons her children to her flag and strikes for freedom." Like I said, our ancestors were a terribly un-PC lot. Yet, if we are to find effective solutions to the challenges we now face, we will need once again to forge the same sense of purpose, drawing on the same breadth of values in order to succeed. I believe we can if we strike the right balance between resilience, recovery, and renewal. Let me talk about resilience. What do I mean? Well, resilience is generally defined as the ability to bounce back from disturbance and to cope with adversity. Another important facet of resilience is that it doesn't let the demands of the present starve the needs of the future. On most measures, we Irish are a resilient lot. My company has been surveying 1,000 different people every month since April 2009. And every month we ask people, what emotions or feelings did you experience a lot of yesterday? And consistently, every month, right up to July, the last month we did it, the top two emotions experienced by the majority of people in this country are happiness and enjoyment. Now, stress and worry are there, but for a minority of people in most of our surveys. And the least two common emotions experienced by people in this country, consistently, are fear and anger. Now, it signals a number of things, not just psychological resilience, but perhaps a curious combination of what I call public anguish and private contentment, Maureen's two states, as she referred to them. In the same surveys, now the vast majority of people do tell us they're very worried about the economy and its prospects, but at the level of their families, their friends and colleagues, they're getting by. Now, of course, getting by is a temporary arrangement. To some extent, we're not so much trapped in the present as hiding in the present. Thinking about the past fills us with regret, while thinking about the future fills us with despair. The problem is, our current situation can't continue, and our capacity for resilience, for bouncing back, will soon diminish unless we find a path to recovery, one that will let us bounce forward with hope and purpose. Now, when it comes to recovery, I'm talking as a director of a small business with between 40 and 80 employees on our payroll every month, depending on how busy we are. But don't worry, I'm not going to whine about rates and taxes and banks. I have plenty of opportunities to do that elsewhere. And I could brag about the fact in the first half of this year we made a small profit, unlike AIB, Bank of Ireland, Ulster Bank and Danske Bank combined. But still, sometimes a business perspective can actually be useful. After all, Thomas J. Clarke, a fellow Dungannon man like myself, ran his own business. Though I don't for a moment consider myself to be in the same league as Clarke, a man who could teach us all about the true meaning of resilience. Nevertheless, I get to talk to a lot of other business people throughout Ireland as clients or customers of our clients. And I can tell you right now, there is no recovery underway in Ireland's domestic economy. In fact, things are getting worse. I won't go into why there isn't a recovery. I'm sure they've been well rehearsed and examined today and over the course of this week. The more important question is what kind of recovery is feasible in the years ahead. Here again, an historic perspective is essential, something most economists lack, as they are more trapped in the present than other professionals, unfortunately. Nor do I mean the historic perspective of business cycles. They're too narrow in scope. Instead, I'm talking about the historic perspective that extends over generations, even centuries, as explored by writers like Neil Howe in America, talking about the fourth turning, or Oswald Spengler a century ago, writing about the decline of the West. These writers, and many others, identify patterns and processes in history that drive economic, social and political change right up to the present day. There isn't time to go into their perspectives, obviously, but suffice it to say that Ireland's recovery will not entail a return to the good old days of the Celtic Tiger anytime soon, though I suspect you knew that already. Nor will recovery take the form of Irish exports piggybacking on a buoyant European resurgence mixed with a dash of Asian convergence. Again, I doubt you're surprised to hear that. The problems that we face in the developed world, the financialisation of the global economy, the debt bubble, the coming collapse of the welfare state, the demographic winter, and to name but a few, simply can't be resolved by a return to economic growth alone. And more people are beginning to realise that too. Recovery will only get underway when we start to believe in the future again. For behind every economic crisis is a crisis of belief. However, I'm not talking about the confidence fairy. Sure, consumer and business confidence matters. I've seen how it correlates with market trends and so on. I'm talking about the core beliefs that motivate us as individuals in our families and communities as citizens of a true republic. For unless we reconnect with the values that our forefathers lived and breathed and were even prepared to die for, we will continue to flounder in a stagnating economy and fragmenting society, depleting the already diminished capacity for resilience that is there. We must seize the moment to unlock a process of renewal in full confidence that we will create a republic we can all exult in. If a group of people had stood here 100 years ago in 1913, who could have foreseen a war that would result in the loss of over 10 million lives, including 30,000 Irishmen, the disappearance of 4 empires that had existed for centuries, and the creation of the first communist state? Never mind the 1916 rising in the War of Independence, all before the decade was out. A lot can happen in just 7 years. A lot could happen over the next 7 years. Maybe even as dramatically as a century ago, though hopefully without the horror of war. So to answer the question posed by the session, where are we going, let me suggest a couple of ideas for your consideration that might unlock recovery and renew our faith in the future. The first one might seem a bit odd, but the first thing I'd suggest is that we need to make money. And I actually mean that literally. We need to actually make our own money, our own types of money, create new currencies in parallel to the euro. Maybe even reintroduce a punt nua alongside the euro as an alternative currency circulating in the domestic economy, including even social welfare payments. It's been suggested by some economists. The success of M-Pesa in Kenya points to the potential for mobile and other technologies to facilitate new types of money, new alternative complementary currencies. Think of it as an insurance policy in the event of the euro's demise. A lot can happen in 7 years, remember. But recovery and renewal isn't just about money and the economy. The future is a mental construct, since it only exists in our heads, which means that the future is emotional. Restoring faith in the future means changing what we believe as well as what we do. The men and women of 1916 knew what they believed. Quote, "We place the cause of the Irish Republic under the protection of the Most High God, whose blessing we invoke upon our arms." The proclamation gets quoted a lot in political debates, and here at the MacGill Summer School that as well. But some bits get quoted more than others, funnily enough, cherishing all the children of the nation equally and so on. But the obvious Christian ethos of the rebels gets left out or ignored. Even Connolly made his confession and received the last rites before his execution. It's that un-PC ancestor problem again. Yet, if we are to forge a shared sense of purpose, identity, and hope, then religion will have to play a part in renewal, just as it has for all previous generations and most previous crises. There's another important anniversary coming up in the next 7 years, the 500th anniversary of the Protestant Reformation, initiated by Martin Luther, nailing his 95 Theses to the church door in Wittenberg in October 1517. And remember, the Reformation was provoked by a European economic crisis. Great, thank you. Provoked by a European economic crisis, arising from the transfer of excessive resources in the form of indulgences from industrious Germans to feckless Italians. So maybe Europe and Ireland needs a second Reformation, though hopefully without the War of the Peasants, one which reconnects its people and especially its elite with the Christian values that inspired our ancestors to face hardship and overcome adversity, just as we do and will have to in the years ahead. So to conclude, we must use 2016 as a springboard to renewal in our economy and our society, in our nation. 2016 will come and go, and then what? We are entering a period of extraordinary change and challenges in Ireland and in the developed world. Right now we are in the eye of the hurricane, that temporary calm that cannot be taken for granted. Through a focus on resilience and recovery and renewal, we can restore our faith in the future. In this supreme hour, the Irish nation must, by its valour and discipline, and by the readiness of its children to sacrifice themselves in the common good, prove itself worthy of the august destiny to which it is called. Thank you for your attention.